What a feeling this is. We're officially able to count down the days on one hand, 5 days until the start of the new Duke basketball season. We've got a lot to discuss here on Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So excited to have you here with us on Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics, talking a lot about Duke basketball as we are now 5 days away from the start of the new season. Duke will open up the season on Monday, November 4th, taking on Maine, and we're going to discuss all of that on today's show with our friend Kevin Connelly, the site expert from Durham. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Be sure to like this video on YouTube. Share it with your friends. We're able to watch the show each and every day on YouTube, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button as we continue to climb towards 3,000 subscribers here on YouTube. If you have not done so, also be sure to follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. And I'm on X as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, very excited to bring him on into today's show. And it's Kevin Connelly from Durham. And Kevin, what a feeling it is, man, getting closer and closer to the start of a new basketball season.
Yep, it's finally here, knocking on the door. One more weekend to get through, and we finally reach it. Hopefully it's a lot of fun between now and who knows, the end of March and into April.
Yeah, for the longest time, I'm looking for just seeing Duke basketball play. We get that with Countdown to Craziness, and then it's like, well, wait, can they play somebody else? And we got that with a couple of different exhibition contests, and now it means something, right? You look at the records, and Duke is still marked as 0-0. Despite winning those exhibition games. Now we're going to get some results that matter. We've got Maine and Army coming up before the big test against Kentucky. So we're in the heart of the season, and this is when we really start to find out what this Duke basketball team is capable of. When you lay out expectations, we've talked about it the last few days, this is absolutely a national championship level Duke basketball team, as Brendan Marks of The Athletic even outlined for us on yesterday's show as well. They proved it in those exhibition games. What they're able to do defensively is so impressive. And then that offense, the shooting ability, the shot making, 3-point shots, I think that's one of the bigger difference makers for the Duke team as well.
Yeah, we kind of highlighted it even before, I guess right after the exhibition against Lincoln, and it was the threat of the 3-point shooting, whether it's Con Kinnipple or Darren Harris, or you can go down the lineup, even a Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster. It was going to open up things down low for players like Cooper Flagg and everybody else to get to the basket and get operating room to work with inside the 3-point arc. And you kind of saw it again against Arizona State. And, it's interesting. We thought there weren't going to be a lot of things to take away from the game against Lincoln because they're not a Division I team. Duke just has far superior talent. Looking back now, trying to compare the two scrimmages, there might be more to take away from the game against Lincoln than Arizona State. And JJ, I think I said it with you right before the exhibition against Arizona State. And yes, don't get me wrong, Arizona State is a better team than Lincoln, but I don't know how good Arizona State is going to be this year. Even before that exhibition, and I think my concerns about them were heightened even coming out of the exhibition. Always thought Duke was going to be a better team than them. Wanted to just give the disclaimer saying that if Duke doesn't win this game, the sky's not falling. But man, I don't know how you can't say the sky isn't falling with Arizona State after watching them play a game against Duke where, I mean, Lincoln put up more of a fight than Arizona State did against the Blue Devils, especially in that second half.
No doubt about that. Just excited to see what Duke can do now in the regular season, that it is, it means something. Now you're playing for something. It's a team that's marked number 7 in the AP poll to begin the year. And we talked about it initially before it ever came out. Felt like it was too low. It doesn't mean anything. Again, it's a preseason ranking, but that's what we're talking about right now. And I feel even more vindicated in that stance, having watched Duke play in the exhibitions like we have, because, I mean, we're not even really talking about Cooper Flagg in this game against Arizona State. He's held to just 9 points. I don't even know that I need to say held to. He just had 9 points because he wasn't out there playing so much, and other guys were able to step up and make shots from the outside. And this is a guy that's a preseason first-team All-American selection before he even plays an official second of college basketball.
Yeah, and obviously the focus is going to be on him every single time Duke steps on the floor. And you're going to see the varying headlines, I guess, with the way he performs. Just say, for an example, he goes out there and scores 4 points against Maine. And you're going to get, oh, my God, Cooper Flagg, terrible in his debut. Is he worth the hype? And then you could see him against Army have 27 points. And it's like, this guy should sit out because he's a lock for the #1 overall pick. I think you're going to see a lot of that. That's kind of how sports debate and sports talk radio and chatter online has developed. It's no longer rational takes. It's everyone wanting to get the hot take out first and generate those headlines and generate those clicks, which that's what people do nowadays. That's kind of how people get revenue, is how many clicks and how many eyeballs you can get on one video or article or so forth. So certainly Cooper Flagg is going to get a lot of the headlines this year, whether he plays well or he doesn't play well. But I think Jon Scheyer, and again, you don't want to use this word coming off of 2 exhibitions, but it feels like he almost put the perfect roster together around a player like Cooper Flagg, with size, with shooting, with ball handling, with defense. There's a lot to like from what we've seen through 2 games thus far for this Duke team in exhibitions.
Yeah, so it's almost like not as much pressure in so many ways on Cooper Flagg, who's already presumed to be the #1 pick in the 2025 draft. He doesn't need pressure. We saw what he did with the Team USA Select team over the summer, how he's been recognized by his peers, by people in the recruiting circles, growing up all as a basketball prospect. But to your point, when you've got the roster around him, when you've got these freshmen contributing, you've got Proctor and Foster back, you've got the transfers coming in, Cooper Flagg just gets to go out there and play basketball, man, and let his talent, let his defensive awareness take over, because I think defensively is where he's going to make the biggest impact right away, because Duke does have so many other shot makers and ball scorers. And then we will certainly have games along the season where Cooper Flagg reminds you, like, yeah, I can go out and score 30 if I need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's another reason why these 2 games upcoming next week are really important, because you do get 2 regular season games that count and go in your stats and go on your record that matter. And playing Maine, I'm imagining the entire Flagg family is going to be there. His twin brother Ace just committing to Maine earlier this week. So going to be interesting to see if Ace is there. I don't know what's going on with his high school schedule and whatnot, but if he is there on Monday night, I have a feeling he might be in neutral colors. I don't know if he'll be supporting his brother or supporting his future team. That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, you play against Maine, you play against Army. You play against Army, I'm pretty sure it's on Veterans Day weekend. I don't know if it's actual Veterans Day, but I know Coach K kind of got that tradition going a couple of years ago, and it's been really cool to see Army come down to Cameron and play around Veterans Day weekend. That's always a special game, and kind of 2 warm-ups. Get everybody acclimated, see what works, because these games count. They're no longer exhibitions before you go into a gauntlet of a couple of weeks with Kentucky and Arizona and Kansas and Auburn to begin the month of December. So once we get through this first week of the season, you're going to see a really stern test that this Duke team is going to face for the next couple of weeks.
Let's keep this rolling. Let's keep this conversation going with what Duke has ahead with the basketball season right on the horizon. A dominant showing from the Blue Devils in their Brotherhood run. We'll continue this conversation with Kevin Connelly of Ball Durham after we take our first break. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the best when you're looking for places to find tickets and to see your favorite teams play live. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. All-in pricing, where you toggle this feature and it shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. The seat views are awesome in the Game Time app. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. With the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference. The Game Time ticket coverage is excellent as well. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, make sure you create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils and the Locked On Podcast Network. Duke basketball getting set for the first game of the season against Maine, fresh off a 56-point victory over Arizona State. Unbelievable to say that. And to think about 66 points being scored in the second half. Offensively, unbelievable what this Duke team was able to do in that exhibition game. We were very impressed by the three-point shooting against Lincoln, talking about, hey, over 50% of their shot attempts were from three. And that was once again the case against Arizona State. It's only fair to expect in these first few weeks of the season, heck, probably throughout the entire season, Duke is going to love to shoot the three-point shot. And they've got so many guys on their roster who are going to be able to knock it down at efficient clips.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I think you're starting to see that all over basketball now, right? At how important the three-point shot is, especially with the range some of these guys have that can feel like they could just about shoot it from when they cross half court. And not to get into basketball history lesson, but that was all kind of revitalized by Stephen Curry. Like Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors with Klay Thompson, they put the emphasis on how big the three-point shot is. And with analytics. And when you look at the couple of rosters that Jon Scheyer created prior to this one, and as he's been the head coach, you haven't had those elite three-point shooting teams. Last year, you had an elite three-point shooter in Jared McCain. And yes, Caleb Foster could hit the three-pointer, but obviously didn't play in the most important games of the season because of the injury. You go back even the year prior with Flip and Derek Lively and Derek, they didn't really have that knockdown three-point shooter either. And seems like this team does. Con Knippel, I think, could be a contender for the best shooter in the country. We know Darren Harris, depending how many minutes he gets throughout the season, he can obviously light it up from downtown. And then we talked about a couple of the other guys earlier in the episode who can hit three-point shots. So I would agree with you by saying this could be a Duke team that really fires it off early and often from three-point range.
And we talked about the halves. I mean, the first half, Duke only knocks down 2 three-point shots against Arizona State. But then in the second half, they're able to rattle off 15. And in so many ways, you have a poor shooting half. You're really worried what that scoreboard might look like if you're Duke. They were up 16 against Arizona State. I'll stop talking about this because I've said it a lot already this week and on to the new opponent and that sort of thing. But I think that's got to give you confidence that even when they aren't knocking down their shots, because Duke's defensive ability is going to keep other teams from scoring as much, and they're getting offensive rebounds and second chances given their size. They're going to have more easy shots around the rim as well, so that when they're not making threes, the other shots that they are making from the floor are literally layups and dunks, Kevin.
No, I do think you make a really good point there because, yes, this team is going to shoot a lot of threes. It seems like they are very good at making a lot of three-pointers, but there's so many other ways it feels like they can score offensively too. They can get to the free throw line because they can be aggressive going to the basket. They can get down low and let Cooper Flagg post up and Kamen Malawach on offensive rebounds and other guys down low. And then they can get to the mid-range, right? We talked about a lot last year how good Tyrese Proctor was in the mid-range. The same thing with Caleb Foster. And a lot of these other guys seem like they have mid-range shots as well. And then if the offense isn't there, because let's be honest, the offense is not going to play at a high level every single night. That's just basketball. You're not going to hit 60% of your shots every single night you step on the floor, but you could always win on your defense. So I do think there's going to be a lot of ways for this Duke team to beat its opponents. And we've kind of seen some of that throughout the exhibitions and especially in that Arizona State game.
It's going to be so much fun to watch this team rebound the ball. And how often do you say that? But given the size advantage of this Duke team, they're going to be in position to do that, which is why I think if there are games where Duke's not rebounding, then you start to question things like effort, because given the size advantage, it should be a little bit easier to get those rebounds.
No, certainly. And like you have a lot of guys like obviously you look at the transfer in Malik Brown. He seems like a defensive wizard. All the guys have talked about in some of these clips and interviews how good of a defender he is. And Kaman Malawach has said that having him around has helped him as a defender. And again, to sing the praises of Cooper Flagg, he does it on both ends of the floor. Mason Gillis. So yeah, I feel like this team, again, you could look at a lot of the statistics that make good basketball teams, and it feels like on paper, again, because we haven't seen it for real yet, feels like this team checks a lot of those boxes on both sides of the floor.
We've been really impressed with the additions that the Brotherhood made throughout the offseason through 2 exhibition games thus far. The Brotherhood could be expanding possibly this weekend. Could get another addition in the form of a new recruit. We'll talk about that and wrap up today's conversation with Kevin Connelly after we take one more break here on Locked On Blue Devils. Thanks again for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and first watch each and every day. Once again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast feed, leave us a 5-star rating and review. 5-star Fridays are my favorite, giving listeners shout outs for the words and kind words that they leave on the podcast platform. Continue to do that. After this is over, make sure that you check out Locked On ACC. That's a great second listen for you today. Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs keep it real and bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC teams stand within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. I'm back on there tomorrow with the Locked On ACC squad. We're getting ready for Duke and Miami on the gridiron coming up this weekend. Big return game for Manny Diaz taking on the Hurricanes. Let's bring him back on. Kevin Connelly here with us again from Ball Durham. We're talking Duke basketball here. Get to a recruiting note in just a moment. Before and when I begun the conversation today, Kevin kind of laid out that national championship or bust expectation for this Duke basketball team this season. Is that fair? Is that fair for Duke? Where are you at as you kind of think about big picture expectations going into the season?
You know, I really can't say that, especially in college basketball. It feels like winning a national championship is so difficult.
It's really hard.
Because of the NCAA tournament. And I feel like you could say that in other sports like in the NBA or the NHL or MLB because you play in series in the postseason. But I mean, especially in college basketball, you have one terrible shooting night and your season could come to an end. So I do not feel like it is national championship or bust, but I do feel like this team should have realistic championship expectations on its shoulders coming into this season, being ranked inside the top 10, which I know, Jada, you talked about on this episode. I'm not the biggest fan of the AP poll, especially in the preseason, because what are you doing? You're ranking teams that you haven't seen, and guys
off of? Yeah,
exactly, like transfers, and it probably was a useful tool 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago when guys weren't transferring and freshmen, sophomores, and juniors were staying for multiple years, and you could rank teams that way. But to answer your question, no. Is it championship or bust? No, it is not. This team could still have a really, really good season without winning a national championship and a season to be proud of. But I do think that there are national championship expectations, and those are justified.
Yeah, I'm just a dreamer, Kevin, and it's a team that's certainly capable of winning it all. I want to see it happen. We've got our sights on 6 since 2015 and looking to certainly get the job done going into the new basketball season. I think with this Duke team, what we've seen so far, and again, it's going to be interesting to kind of go back and listen to this conversation, say, come middle of January going into February when we've got a large sample size of Duke basketball within the year. But speaking now and speaking to what could be something to knock Duke out of a postseason tournament game, like I can't really find that weakness right now with this Duke team. I would think it would have to be the scenario that you're laying out where all of a sudden Duke just is not making shots. They're not able to score. I don't know of many other weaknesses, though, that I'm seeing right now on this Duke team.
No, I get that. But again, we haven't even officially hit November, and to think about how they
2 days to go,
how they could be knocked out of a potential postseason game. And I mean, coaches are really good, staffs are really good. You come up with game plans. I think you can compare it to the Zion and RJ Barrett team in 2018. It was tough to see them getting knocked out of an NCAA tournament team, but you get a team that plays really good. You get in foul trouble. Your offense isn't fully there. Your defense might be not as connected, and that's how you lose. So I'm not looking that far down the line just yet. Just more looking forward to seeing how they play once the lights get turned on and these games actually count.
All right, so coming up this weekend on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Central Time in Texas, we will see the announcement of Shelton Henderson. He's going to make it live on YouTube on the 247 Sports channel. The Brotherhood is looking to gain another addition in the class of 2024. He's down to 3 schools left when he is set to make his decision. A guy that we've talked about a whole lot when you look at this Duke class in particular. Again, native to the state of Texas. He's played in the John Lucas AAU program over the last few years, so there's already been this connection to the Lucas family and Duke associate head coach Jay Lucas. But we'll finally get a decision. I'm really glad that with the season coming to us here soon, Kevin, that means a lot of these recruitments are winding down as well, because it is getting to be decision time for a lot of those top targets.
Yeah, JJ, we talked about it right before the Boozers committed, right? I said on this program that you are going to see a lot of these high school recruits start coming off the board because they want to get their decision time over before their high school season starts. And programs want to focus on the season more than being out on the recruiting trails in November and December and January and February. So the Boozer twins committed mid-October. Then 10 days later, you get another prospect. And then maybe 8 days later, you'll get Shelton Henderson. It seems like Duke is the favorite right now. But obviously, recruiting is fluid. And even when everybody thinks one thing is going to happen, another thing could happen as well. So Duke already has the #1 class. I guess they'd get a bigger lead in the #1 class if they are able to get Shelton Henderson. So certainly more exciting times on the recruiting trail.
The Boozer twins, they had a final 3 of Duke, Miami, and Florida. Nicholas Kamenia, who just committed to Duke, as you said, just recently had that final 3 of Duke, UCLA, and Gonzaga, and now a totally different final 3. It's been a mixed bag of teams that Duke is kind of recruiting against. It's the Blue Devils, Louisville, and Texas, the 3 final schools vying for Shelton Henderson.
Yeah, and a lot of people think right now he is going to go to Duke, but you look at Nicholas Kamenia, and nobody thought he was going to go to Duke, even the morning of his decision. So recruiting things can change very quickly, but right now you probably feel pretty good right now if you are a Duke fan and you want Sheldon Henderson in a Blue Devil uniform next year.
Close to tip-off, 5 days away from the start of the season, and hopefully we've got another recruit that joins the Blue Devils over the weekend. Kevin, you were the best. It's always so great to have you join us on the program today. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up once again. Ball Durham, the website that you're a part of. Plug your work, if you will.
Yep, balldurham.com, social media, ball_Durham. We're fired up for the start of the season. Know everybody else is out there, and we'll have a lot of good content for you up there every single day. So come give us a read and a follow.
Good to see you, Kevin. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ. You too, man.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Always grateful for his time, and make sure you go check out his work at Ball Durham too. Follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. We'd love to have you a part of our community each and every day. A special shout out once again to all of our everydayers. I see you and appreciate everything that you guys are doing for this community. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.